Welcome back, fam. More 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross as always. Really been enjoying bringing you guys this content, and thanks for all the support. I actually had this video as a plan for a while, but brought it up due to one of the comments in the section below. Shout out to Akuma, thank you for asking for this. And guys, if there's anything you want to see, anything you want me to cover, please let me know in the comment section down below. And make sure you give it a like and subscribe and all that good stuff to show your support. So basically today what we're going to touch on is equipment. Now I'm going to break this down into probably 2 videos. This first video I want to basically briefly explain equipment, what it means, what it does, why it's there, how to go about it, and how to actually build equipment up. And then the next video, what I'll do is I'll cover my recommendations for what heroes to give what equipment and how to gear the certain heroes. So basically what I wanted to start with was just giving you guys an understanding of, again, like I said, equipment, right? Like what it is and why it's important. I mentioned in a previous video, it's pretty much the most important thing when it comes to an overall combat class or power level of a hero. Having the right equipment on someone will literally make or break them as a unit pretty much. So very first thing is if you hit the little search button in your heroes, you can actually go to equipment and it'll tell you what equipment you have on each hero. Right, so this is really helpful, and I'll explain what all these different symbols and stuff mean shortly. But I want to start with a hero that doesn't have any equipment. So let's start with a different type of Grimoire. Poor nerfed new Grimoire, but this is old Grimoire. So at the moment he doesn't have any equipment on him, right? And his combat class is just under 23k. So when you go to equipment, you basically have 6 slots, right? It's basically armor you put on your hero. It doesn't affect the way your hero looks at all. The only thing it does is affect basically your combat class, how much attack, defense, etc. your hero has. So there are all different types of equipment you can put in different slots, and they are these ones here. So I'm going to quickly run through what all this means. So as you can see, right, you have all these different types of gear sets. Now, basically you need a certain number of pieces of this particular equipment in order to get the bonus it's talking about, or the set effect, right? So let's say I want to equip attack gear and I want to give my hero plus 20% to their attack. I actually need 4 pieces of that equipment to attach onto the hero, right? Whereas defense, if I wanted to increase defense, I only need 2. So bear in mind, as I mentioned, we actually have 6 equipment slots. So this is where you can kind of be a little bit strategical about the different equipment you have, right? HP needs 4 sets, etc., etc. So there's a couple of different ways of doing it. The most common ones, which I'll show you, is basically attack crit damage, right? So you 4 set and a 2 set, and then you also have HP defense 4 set and a 2 set. Sorry, excuse me. There's recovery rate, there's mind's eye, there's concentration, there's all these different ones as you can see, and they all have their kind of place in specific scenarios. But look, honestly with you guys, 9 times out of 10, if you run HP defense, which is your HP life and iron will set as 4 and 2, and then attack crit damage, attack and congeniality crit damage 4 and 2, they're pretty much going to cover you for, or at least combinations of those, for 99% of all the characters, right? So cool. That's the equipment, that's the different sets, that's how many you need, but let's actually see it in the game, right? So like, how do we go about building an equipment set for someone? So the first thing we kind of need to understand is what role you want that hero to play in your team, right? Do you want them to do damage? Do you want them to, be able to survive a long time? Do you want them to, anything along those lines, right? Do you want to recover really well? Do you want to lifesteal from the enemy? Like, what do you want them to do? And sometimes this does play into passive abilities and actual abilities within the hero themselves, right? So I'll give you an example real quick before we run through the equipment. So, for example, this Purgatory Barn, I mentioned in one of my other videos, is a really fun damage dealer, right? So usually on your damage dealers, you want to give them attack, right? Because they do more damage that way. But Barn is actually a little bit different. His abilities and damage actually scales off HP, right? So the way I want to build him is actually with HP. So make sure you keep an eye on the uniques when you're building out a hero to make sure it's aligning with what it does. Same thing with something like, where is he? Blue Tarmiel, right? His unique is based on the value of his defense. his grace is based on the value of how much his defense is, right? And he actually has an ultimate, which is based again on his defense, right? So this is such a defense heavy hero that you actually want to run him pretty much with, you know, 2 all defense gear, so you max out his defense, right? So as we saw on the other sheet, you need to have two pieces of this to get plus 20% defense. So if I give him full defense gear with all 6 pieces, he'll end up with plus 60% to his defense, right? So again, just understand what you want the hero to do and understand the way the hero works in his passive abilities or her passive abilities, and then you can build gear effectively. All right, so let's take Grimoire. I have a quick look, and I'll have a look at him, right, and I'll have a look at his skills. His unique is not really appropriate or applicable to anything, right? It increases defense-related stats in deathmatch. We don't really care about that. But what I'm looking at here is it decreases their attack-related stats, which is helpful. But the main thing is it assumes a stance which taunts. Right, to me, like any hero that comes and says I taunt, or I have a taunt, or you know I'm designed to take damage, you kind of almost put them in the tank role, right? Which is one of the roles in the game, and I've released a video on that as well if you want to check it out. But basically, he'll be like a tank for your hero. So immediately, my thought process is I want to run him with HP gear and defense gear, right? Because then that way I boost his HP and I boost his defense so he can take more hits. Little side note, when you're building out heroes, if you do just want to give them random gear, or you just can't be bothered with all this, literally just click recommended equipment and it'll equip all the gear that it just recommends. It'll basically complete a set for you here, right? So life and congeniality. That being said, I don't know if I want to do that, right? So for this hero, I'd probably want to run HP defense. So what I would do is I would just make sure that any of these slots, let's just do it now. So I'd want to make sure I have at least 4 pieces of his equipment, right, is HP, because I want that set bonus, right? So it says no active equipment at the moment. Whereas as soon as I give him 4 pieces, he gets that HP boost, right? So the last 2 I want to do is, if I need to make sure I've got the gear for it, is I want to make sure that he has the defense, right? So now I've geared this Grimoire with HP defense gear, right? Which basically means his stats have gone up and his combat class has jumped by 5,000 or so, right? And this is with basic SSR gear, right? So there are different grades to gear, just like there is in heroes, right? You have R gear, SSR gear, SR gear, you even have, you know, common and ultra common UC gear. I'm pretty, again, OCD, I pretty much only equip my hero with SSR gear, or only equip my heroes with SSR gear. It's not really the most economical way of doing it. You can do it with, you know, if you use a hero that you don't have that much and you just want to give them 2 smaller pieces, you can give them a smaller set and save your SSR gear for your higher grade heroes. He's also jumped up in combat class, as you can see, he's jumped up in the list as well. So that's one way of building out kind of the heroes. Again, maybe if he was an attack hero, I'd probably want to give him attack gear, right? And then you can keep the defense gear if maybe you want a little bit more survivability, right? So I can actually run, because defense is only 2 pieces and attack is 4, I can actually, if I want to, run attack defense, right? So now he has an attack bonus and a defense bonus. Again, if I wanted to maybe change that to crit damage, I can now give him crit damage as well. So you can chop and change these as long as you want to make sure basically you get some sort of set bonus, right? Like I don't want to now go and give this crit damage here because I lose my attack bonus because I've only got 3 pieces of attack equipment, right? So I want to make sure that that is attack. Where the 2s and the 4s are placed doesn't really matter. You can have them wherever you want. I like to, on some of my like more specific heroes, I will have them in the middle, just because it kind of looks cleaner. But it really doesn't matter. Cool. So as you can see, right there we just geared up our Grimoire for a little bit of attack crit damage. As you can see as well, his actual combat class has dropped, right? So it was just over 28k, now it's down to 26k. What this means is basically that, you know, the HP defense gear actually gives him more combat class, more power, right? So this is something to think about as well. If you're going into a battle, maybe HP defense will give you the extra CC you need to, you know, go first on a boss fight or whatever it is. But yeah, HP defense is generally a higher CC gear when you give it to a hero. You still build them out the way you want them to be, whether it's, you know, a tank unit or whether it's a you know, damage unit, but you want to build it out in a way that is applicable to the hero, right? And CC is important, but giving them the right equipment is more important. Cool. So you would have seen on, let's go back in and give them some, let's check out some gear. So you would have seen that on the gears, right, there's different stars, different plus icons and stuff on a few different gears that I have floating through here. And what does all that mean? Basically, it is a chance to enhance or awaken a piece of equipment, right? So what awaken means is basically if you have something that has stars at the bottom, this means it is awakened. And then if you have the +5 or +1 up here, it means it is enhanced. So the max you can actually get a piece of equipment to is level 5 awakening tier with +5 equipment. So that'll basically put it at the top tier of SSR equipment, and it'll cost you a certain amount of gold, materials, and enhancing materials, right? So awakening will cost you little blue gems, awakening stones, and then enhancing will cost you the enhancing stones as well. As you level this up, it will increase the power of that particular piece of equipment, and obviously you want to get to a point preferably where you have them all maxed out. So let's just have a quick look at a hero so I don't have to waste any equipment. Let's go, where would it be? This one. So this is my baby Merlin, or Lolly Merlin. She actually has full +5 equipment on everything. Now what happens is when you awaken a piece of equipment, you actually get the ability to have additional stats on it, right? So let me try and see if I can find a hero that doesn't have anything already rolled, which is what we call rolled. Basically, it will automatically populate with a bunch of random stats, right? So actually I know who we can use. There, cool. So I've awakened this Liz 3 times, right, on this particular piece of equipment, and it gives me 3 different options when it comes to what just random effect it applies. So when you get to +5, you actually get all 5 of these unlocked, and that'll just improve your heroes, you know, regeneration rate, lifesteal, whatever it may be. To change this, you can go repeated change, and it uses anvils, and you can basically pick and choose which kind of bonus or effect it will give your hero. So the top rung basically is for attack rolls or attack style rolls, right? So as you can see, attack here. The next ones along here is defense, as you can see. And the next one is HP. So all the different effects that come and apply will relate to either attack, defense, or HP. Now look, 9 times out of 10, you pretty much just want to, what we call, re-roll these to attack, right? It'll give your hero the most damage, it'll give your hero the most CCs, the most combat class or power level, not the chip here in Australia, but you can re-roll these using anvils, and that'll again give you the most combat class or the most actual attack or damage. So you can re-roll this if you just kind of click that button there. You pretty much always want to hit repeated change if you're trying to do this, and you can basically select any of them to re-roll to a certain level, right? So if you hit apply and I hit repeated change, they will all re-roll until I get to 3% or higher. I very much don't recommend doing this. This will take a heck of a lot of anvils. I do it at about 2%, but I did originally do it at 1.5 and 1% as well. So what will happen is as you re-roll the gear, you will get to a point where you will have 5-star gear re-rolled to look something like this, right? So if you have a full set of completely re-rolled 5-star 5 awakened gear, then you will end up with something like this. So attack, attack, defense, defense, and then HP and HP. So what this means is my hero has plus 20% to attack, plus 20% to crit damage, as well as having all these pieces re-rolled, so it'll increase my HP by, what's that, 24% almost, my defense by 24% almost, and then my attack by 26% here. Now, when you re-roll these, you can get to a certain point, as we were talking about, right? Whether it's plus 2% or whether it's plus 1% or whatever you do, you can then use Hammers of Vyzor to improve this stat. Right, so as you can see, I've used all of mine recently, but the max it can actually get to is 3% on all of these. So totally maxed out gear will be 15% on either side, which will basically give you the max amount of stats you can get on a piece of, say, SSR gear or any sort of gear. Each of these, whether you do SSR gear or R gear or SR gear, have slightly different costs and pieces of equipment that they use and resources that they use. Like I said, I'm a bit of a elitist or OCD, whatever you want to call it. I only like to use SSR gear, but that's just me. You can use whatever gear you like. I would save the SSR gear for your carry heroes, right? Again, we've done a video on it. Your Trader Meliodas, your Escanors, all of those type of heroes that will carry you through the game. Definitely use SSR gear on them. But if you're just trying to improve your overall box CC, then you can just use any pieces of equipment. Cool, so that is the pieces of equipment, that is leveling them up to 5 SSR, and that is basically how to re-roll them and what to use. Now you're probably sitting there going, Dan, I saw you before and I've seen it before. I've seen UR gear on heroes. What does that mean? Why is it there? So once you get something to 5 stars plus 5 awaken, you can actually do what we call engraving that particular piece of equipment, and what it'll do is it'll actually put a name on that equipment, and every time you equip it to a hero that has that name, right? So for example, this is Escanor's UR gear. Every time I equip this Escanor, I actually get an increase in stats again, right? So this gives me another quick math, 5,500 HP. This will give me another 600 attack, and this will give me another 300 defense, right? So by engraving stuff to particular heroes, it increases their stats even further. Again, I would probably save this just for your carry heroes or the heroes that you really enjoy or use a lot. So for example, I have mine on Trader Meli, Escanor, my Barn, like pretty much all of these heroes up until about here. And I have a few, I have a couple of pieces for Tarmiel and stuff that I'll work through and work on as well. So at the moment, as you can see, I've got 2 pieces of Tarmiel, but then I've got pieces of +5 equipment here, all re-rolled, which is quite nice. So if I wanted to, what I could do is I could just click the engrave button, and what it'll do, it'll take you to Merlin, and then what it'll do is it'll use a awakening stone, a 6-star awakening stone, that will move it to UR, and then the equipment engraving stones. You use 10 of these per piece of equipment, so if you obviously want to do all 6 pieces of equipment, you need 6 of these stones and 60 of these equipment engravings. So I could actually run a full set now if I wanted to. At the moment it is cheaper, which is nice, so it's 250k rather than the usual 500k, but I would simply just click engrave and that would equip it to basically anyone that has Tarmiel. Right, so I can actually move these pieces of defense equipment to the other Tarmiel if I want to, which is really helpful. So, for example, if I have Trader Meli, this equipment will work on any Meliodas, which is nice. So this is my Meliodas. This is an example of full 15% UR gear rolls on all the hero, right? As I was talking about before, it makes a massive difference to your combat class. So if I go, we're at 59k basically here right now. This is my free-to-play Meliodas. If I just remove all this equipment, we're 36k, right? So we're like, not quite, but almost doubling our CC. And it won't even give me that. So it's just very, very worth it for your carry heroes and heroes that you want to invest in. Maybe you simp, or maybe you love a specific hero and you want to give them UR gear, go for it, right? Like, who am I to tell you what to do with your stones and your resources? But just know that, can be important to make sure you gear your right heroes correctly. Awesome, guys, and that is pretty much Equipment 101. If there's anything that maybe I didn't cover properly or that I missed, please let me know in the comment section down below. We've gone through kind of what the equipment does, where it's placed on the hero, what the different grades are, how you upgrade it, how you get UR gear, talked about re-rolling the equipment. So hopefully this all helps and will give you an understanding of how to gear someone or how to put equipment on someone. Like I said, in the next one, which I'll release later today, I will cover what heroes to give what equipment for and why I do that. So stay tuned. But thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.